Hello all, welcome to my channel Chess Guru. So today we are going to learn how to play a king in pawn ending. We are going to learn the basic key principles and the theoretical king in pawn ending. So let's see like how to play from white's perspective and black's perspective. So white king has to support the pawn, and also the pawn has to be in a position to promote to be the queen, to get the queen. So once it becomes the queen, so it is a win for white. Whereas black, on the other hand, aims at capturing the pawn, even though if it doesn't capture the pawn, it will look for the opposition, which will end up in a draw. So in this particular position, if white has to play, so this position is going to be a draw because white cannot reach for the support of the pawn, whereas black is so near to white's pawn and it can take the pawn. So once it captures the pawn, it is going to be a draw, even though if it is white's move, like it is going to be a draw for white. So let us say, for example, if king goes here, king moves to d4, king g6, king e4, and king captures the pawn. So, I mean, black has succeeded in capturing the pawn and has secured a draw. So let's look at another position. If you see in this position, white's pawn can be promoted to the queen, whereas the black king is unable to reach to stop the pawn from getting queen. So say for example, it's white's move and white play a4, king here, a5, king f7, a6, king e7, a7, and king d7. So the king is too far away to stop the pawn, and white wins. So white has succeeded in getting the pawn to become a queen, whereas black is unable to stop the pawn or capture the pawn. So this is going to be a win for white. So in general, so white pawn has to be promoted to be to get the queen. So that should be the plan for white. And for black, like the black king has to go and stop the pawn. Okay, either it has to stop the pawn or it has to capture the pawn. So that should be the core principle in the king and pawn ending. So this one is a theoretical pawn ending. So the king is opposing each other. Okay, so the king is opposing each other because like the king is, I mean, on the straight line. Okay, so it is opposing each other. So in this position, if it was white's move, then it is going to be a draw. Whereas if it was black's move, it is going to be a win for white. Say for example, if it was black's move, so king c8. So this is the obvious move because when the king goes to let's say e1, the pawn will go to c7 and it is going to be lost straight away. So king c8, and for this one, let's say c7, and the king can neither go to b8 nor go to d8. So the king has to vacate the square. So it will go to b7. Now the king will advance in order to support the pawn from getting queen on c8. So now it takes the control over the c8 square. So the pawn can move the next move. So the pawn can go to c8 the next move, and it is going to be a win for white. Say for example, if it was white's move. So earlier we saw like what happens like if it was black's move. So let's see like what happens if it was white's move. So pawn moves to c7 and the king goes to c8. So the king has to go to c6, otherwise it is going to lose the pawn straight away. If even if let's say king c5, king is going to take the c7 pawn. So the king goes to c6 and it's going to be a stalemate. So the king has nowhere to go. So this is the core principle that which you need to look out for. So while taking the opposition, like if it was having the king opposed to each other, and if it was black's move, it is going to be a win for white, and if it was white's move, it is going to be a draw. So that is what the core principle is. So let's see like how to play the theoretical endgame. So this is the most important position and the most important principle of all to learn. Say if it was white's move, so the pawn will get advanced, And from the perspective of black, like the king has to stop the pawn from getting queened. So the king will go in support of the pawn. So the king goes behind. So that is not to b7, not to d7. Okay. So it has to go to c7. The plan is when king goes to b5, okay, it is going to take the opposition. The king goes to b7. Okay. So now the pawn has to move. And again, the king will go to c7. The king goes back to c5. And again, it shouldn't be, let's say, d8. The king has to play a waiting move, king c8. So it will look for white's move, and it is going to take the opposition then. Let's say now the king goes to d6. The king goes back to d8, and the pawn goes to c7. The king goes to c8, and it's king c6 draw. And say, for example, what happens if black chooses the other moves instead of the theoretical one. So the pawn goes to c5, king goes to c6, king c4. Instead of playing king c7, let's assume that king goes to d7. Okay, so the king goes to d5, and even here the king goes here. So there are chances for draw. Let's see like how. Pawn goes to c6, and now the king goes to c8. Let's say if the king goes to d8. Okay, let's say if the king goes to d8. Okay, instead of c8. Okay, the king goes to d6, and now white has taken the position. So we have learned that if the king was opposing each other, and if it was black's move, it is going to be a win for white, and if it was white's move, it is going to be a draw. So now the opposing position has occurred, and unfortunately it was the move of black. So the king has to go here to c8. So let's say if the king goes to d8. Okay, if the king goes to d8, it is going to be pawn move straight away. Okay, so our next move, like the king has to vacate, and it is going to be a queen. So he has to play king e8, king d, king c8, and for c7 he has to vacate the square, and king takes control over the c8 where the pawn is going to be promoted as a queen. So the basic thing is to remember is that to play the waiting move, king c7. Okay, so waiting for white's move. So if king goes to d5, if the king goes to d5, it is going to be king d7, or else like if the king goes to b5, it is going to be king b7. So I mean taking the opposition, king here, and here this is the main thing which we need to note down. So this is the final thing, and king is going to the final rank. Okay, so the king shouldn't go to b8. If the king goes to b8, king goes to b6, and the king goes to c8. So the opposition has happened, and it was unfortunately black's move. King goes here, pawn moves, king comes out, and king goes to b7, king d6, pawn queens. So instead, if he goes to king d8, so that is going to be the same thing. White king has taken the opposition, and the king has to move. So unfortunately, the black king's move. King goes, pawn here, queens. So the right move to play here is king c8. So the thing is to wait for white's move. So if white king goes to b6, the black king has to go to b8. If the white king goes to d6, the black king has to go to d8. So the king goes here, and it is going to be a draw here. King goes draw. So what else? He can try for some other variations. Say for example, moves like this. Okay, moves like this, and let's say you should play king c7 here. Okay, what happens if I play king d8? Unfortunately, what happens? King goes here, and white king takes the opposition. White takes the opposition, and it was black's move here. Okay, so we need to be careful in playing these kind of moves. So we need to be careful in playing these kind of moves. say if king, that will be a trick. If king goes to d5, okay, don't make your king to go to d8. Instead, bring the king to c7. Okay, so sit there, stop the advance of the pawn. Okay, no more further advancement. The king has to go back to c5. Okay, play it back. If the king tries to trick you by going to b5, don't go to b8. It is going to be the same thing again. So the king takes the opposition, and it is going to be a win. So instead, if the king goes to b5, play king c7. So the pawn can never advance if the king goes like this. So the king goes here, king goes here, king has to take somewhere to the 6th rank, so the pawn can advance. And the moment it got advanced, it is going to be a draw. So today we have learned how to play the king and pawn ending. So the key principles on the theoretical ending, how to play the theoretical ending, the important moves to note out for. So from the perspective of white and for the perspective of black. So if you like the video, you can press the like button. If you want to see more videos, you can subscribe to my channel, Just Guru. Thank you.